Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh, coming up in the next hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi concludes successful two-nations visit. India-Singapore strategic partnership gains new momentum with focus on semiconductor ecosystem. Russia's President Vladimir Putin, ready for talks with Ukraine, says India could act as a mediator in peace negotiations to end the conflict. World Bank approves $68 million lifeline for remote Pacific islands, funds to support tourism, trade and aid flows. No Ronaldo or Messi in the 30-man nomination list announced for the prestigious Ballon d'Or awards ceremony set to take place in October in Paris this year. Prime Minister Narendra Modi concluded his two-nation visit as he left for Delhi after concluding a series of engagements with political and business leaders in Singapore. Prime Minister Modi had arrived in Singapore on Wednesday, engaged with top leadership of the country to strengthen the ties between the strategic allies.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi visiting the Parliament of Singapore with the Prime Minister of the country as part of his two-day visit to the Southeast Asian nation. The Prime Minister was given a ceremonial welcome by the government of Singapore upon his arrival at Parliament. Prime Minister Modi was accompanied by a high-level delegation including External Affairs Minister and National Security Advisor of India. Prime Minister Modi congratulated the newly elected Prime Minister of Singapore and highlighted the growing bond between the two countries. The two leaders signed 4 memorandums of understanding between the Government of India and Singapore. The MOUs signed included MOU in the field of digital technologies, MOU on semiconductor ecosystem partnership, MOU on cooperation in the field of health and medicine, MOU on educational cooperation and skills development. Prime Minister Modi, accompanied by the host Prime Minister, also later visited a semiconductor facility in Singapore and interacted with Indian interns from Odisha's World Skills Centre. The students called the opportunity to meet Prime Minister Modi motivating.
Very happy and excited today because today we meet our Singapore Prime Minister and also India Prime Minister. So I got this opportunity. Thankful to be here today.
I am doing an internship in a Four Seasons Hotel, like a maintenance engineer. Visiting Prime Minister is a very big things.
After visiting the semiconductor facility, Prime Minister Modi was hosted for lunch by Senior Minister and former Prime Minister of Singapore, Lee Hsien Loong. Later, Prime Minister Modi also called on President of Singapore, His Excellency Tharman Shanmugaratnam, at his official residence. Before concluding his visit to Singapore, Prime Minister Modi held a business roundtable with a wide range of business leaders in a bid to boost the business and investments in India.
With the successful conclusion of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's 5th visit to Singapore, a new chapter in the friendship between the two countries has started. The kind of political will showed by the leadership of the two countries and the enthusiasm that is being seen on the ground in both India and Singapore, the relation between the two countries is most likely to reach new heights. In Singapore, with camera person SP Dubey, Akshay Dongre, DD India.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi interacted with a group of leading Singaporean CEOs from diverse sectors on Thursday. During the interaction, Prime Minister spoke about various initiatives to enhance India's participation in global value chains.
Aggressively semiconductor के क्षेत्र में जा रहे हैं. अब तक करीब 5 कंपनियां ऑलरेडी अपना काम शुरू कर चुकी हैं. आगे भी औरों की संभावनाएं हैं और हम पूरी इकोसिस्टम को लाने वाले हैं. हमको एक छोटा सा टुकड़ा एक आध हिस्सा करके अटकने वाले नहीं है. भारत के पास टैलेंट है. आज दुनिया में जितने भी चिप्स हैं, अगर उसका राइटिंग का काम है, तो सॉफ्टवेयर का काम है, वो सब हिंदुस्तान में हो रहा है। सब बड़ी कंपनियों के रिसर्च यूनिट वहीं पर है। अब हम चाहते हैं कि हम खुद ही यहाँ पर उस दिशा में आगे बढ़ें, तो आपके लिए वो भी एक बहुत बड़ा स्कोप है।
And business leaders who met Prime Minister Modi hailed the growth in several sectors, including digital, power and semiconductors.
It's very exciting, to meet with Prime Minister Modi in person. His leadership is exceptional. For the past, this is his third term, right? For the past 2 terms, you can see that India has become one of the major player globally, the 5th largest the economies in the world. And I would like to continue to encourage him to open up the market, to consider some of the new policies, or improve some of the existing policy to encourage more collaboration, particularly with Singaporean companies and then with the Singaporean investments. We're talking about, high efficiency transportation systems. We're talking about smart cities. We're talking about the energy strategy and planning for clean and reusable energy and hydrogens. And then also the other very important sector is aviation. Right. With the population growth, we'll see the aviation related infrastructure will be in high demand. Right. So these are the areas, and of course the most critical part is really the sustainability, and we need to be very mindful about how to design and plan and build the future cities in everything in a very sustainable way.
Commitment to digital India, the commitment to digitalization across all of Indian society has been actually something that is, for a lot of places, an example to follow. Yeah. And I think we've been very excited and pleased by that, because what we've been able to do is enable the economy this way, the digital economy. And we've been able to serve more than 1,000 companies, small, medium, large companies in India, plus some of the big Fortune 500 companies, the big cloud players, because that enables them to come in and provide the digital infrastructure to allow all the other things like AI, greater e-commerce, and the proliferation of data penetration and broadband across the country. To demonstrate money where our mouth is, we are actually investing more than 26,000 crores, 3.2 billion US in the next 5 years to enable this. It means that substantial 550 megawatts of capacity will come online, data center capacity, which means that now the foundations across major cities and first, second tier cities, which we have been starting to invest in, not just the first tier cities, we've seen that basically that demand is increasing rapidly. And that will allow that whole digital India story to really expand and grow dramatically.
I was really very impressed with and encouraged by what Mr. Modi said to all of us. This is Mr. Modi's 3rd term as Prime Minister of India. And all of us around the table have been in India, investing in India. My own firm has been in India for 20 years. And clearly what we have done in the last 10 years during Mr. Modi's time as Prime Minister has been much more than what we could achieve in earlier periods. But what Mr. Modi said, that in his next 5 years, in his 3rd term, he will achieve much more than what he did in his first 10 years. So this has given us a lot of encouragement that, his increased vigor and his focus on so many different aspects, from space to air travel to housing to AI, digital India, just so many opportunities for us and for all of my colleagues, the 20 businesses who are present today, that we will be going back really very encouraged with the opportunities that India presents to us as Singapore companies, and as we're looking to expand beyond the shores of Singapore. We were really taken by what Mr. Modi said just recently, that we will reform, you will have to perform and also transform. That's really words which mean a lot to us. But actually, we have been seeing that happen.
And DD India correspondent Akshay Dongare joins us live from Singapore. Akshay, Prime Minister Modi is en route home as we speak. Give us a sense of how his visit was received by the leaders, businesses and the people of Singapore.
Well, as far as Prime Minister's visit to Singapore is concerned, we saw a rousing welcome here in the country. In fact, the Home Minister of Singapore government in Singapore, in fact, was personally present at the airport to receive the Prime Minister. Then we saw Prime Minister's engagement with Prime Minister of Singapore, Mr. Lawrence Wong, where on the first day Prime Minister visited his official residence, where a dinner was hosted for Prime Minister. The next day there were a range of meetings, including a meeting with the political leadership at the Parliament of Singapore. Then Prime Minister also called on the President of the country, as well as meeting the senior minister, also the former Prime Minister of the country here in Singapore. And it's not just the political leadership, Shubhendu. We saw the kind of business leadership emerge to meet and greet Prime Minister Narendra Modi. In fact, at the roundtable that was held today, we saw all the top CEOs of the country, be it the semiconductor sector, be it the aviation sector, connectivity, telecom, infrastructure project companies, along with the associations of Singapore businesses being present at the roundtable that was held by the Prime Minister. And in fact, a lot of positive response had come out of it when it comes to the response that was given by the business leadership.
And we see that the domain of India-Singapore cooperation has been expanded. There is a special focus on a partnership in semiconductor space. Tell us more about that.
Well, the reason why semiconductor was in focus is also because as far as the semiconductor value chain is concerned, Singapore is one of the leading countries that has been pioneering in this particular sector. In fact, it has been about 56 years since Singapore started working on semiconductors. About 10% of GDP of Singapore is dependent on the semiconductor industry. So Singapore is one of the leading nations in semiconductor technology, be it the testing of the products, be it the final manufacturing as well, and packaging of the semiconductors into the final products, be it automobiles, be it computers, quantum computing. So all of these aspects are quite important, and in fact they're considered the building blocks of technology in the technology as we know it in today's world. So semiconductor remains a focus for India because India is eyeing at this huge market around the globe that is dependent on the semiconductors. In fact, we have seen the recent crises that had emerged due to the shortage of semiconductors, because if there is a shortage of semiconductor and the business leaders also understand, then it can create a crisis not just in this particular industry but also in several other industries. There can be a major fallout, and that is why companies as well as countries do not want to limit this crucial technology to only one geographical location, and that is why the focus is on expanding the semiconductor business to as many friendly nations as possible, especially countries that have political stability, countries that have skilled workforce, countries that have manufacturing capabilities, and India exactly fits the bill for this particular purpose, and that is why we saw both sides being quite keen on expanding the business of semiconductors.
Akshay, thank you for joining us with those updates. Moving on, solar power and wind energy is the way forward for a sustainable future. India has walked the talk with 14.9 gigawatts of solar energy target achieved in the first 6 months of 2024. The International Solar Festival in the national capital looks at solutions for the world and the global south. Anil Thomas has the details.
The International Solar Festival is a call to action for a sustainable and equitable future powered by solar energy. Creating a more resilient and sustainable world is the need of the hour.
In such a short time, the membership of ISA had reached a milestone of 100 countries. Additionally, 19 more countries are ratifying the framework agreement for attaining full membership. The growth of this organization is important for the vision of one world, one sun, one grid.
The two-day event hosted at Bharat Mandapam is a testament of the age-old traditions of India, which are now a source of inspiration for the world.
Ensuring the energy access to all and is also a priority, and therefore we have to make gradual and expedite to shift to renewable energy sources. The International Solar Alliance furthers this vision by creating an ecosystem of support to solarize underserved communities across the globe.
Hosted by the International Solar Alliance, the International Solar Festival will catalyze global solar adoption by forging partnerships, unlocking innovative financing, deploying cutting-edge technology and boosting capacity in ISA member countries.
We want Indian batteries to be made with Australian lithium. We want Indian green steel to be produced with Australian green iron. And we want Indian solar panels to be made with Australian silicon.
ISA has a crucial role to play to help countries identify their priority needs and reinforce their capacities. I welcome the involvement of the private sector and of multiple stakeholders in the International Solar Festival, the first one to be held. Indeed, France is convinced that the development of a close cooperation between the International Solar Alliance and the private sector is key to address the challenges that the world faces today in the energy sector.
The International Solar Festival aligns businesses, policymakers and financial institutions. The two-day event will serve as a launchpad for transformative collaborations that fast-track the world's transition to a future powered by affordable, reliable and sustainable solar energy. Anil Thomas's report for DD India.
On to some other stories. Egypt's Army Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Ahmad Fateh Khalifi, made a surprise visit to the country's border with Gaza Strip to inspect the security situation. State television reported on Thursday, citing the army spokesperson. The visit comes after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on Wednesday that Israel would only agree to a permanent ceasefire in Gaza, which guaranteed that the border area between southern Gaza and Egypt could never be used as a lifeline for Islamist movement Hamas. Meanwhile, Israel-Gaza conflict continues to escalate. The Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu demanded the permanent closure of Gaza-Egypt border to Hamas as a condition for a long-term ceasefire. In response, Hamas accuses Netanyahu of obstructing peace efforts by refusing to withdraw from the Philadelphia corridor. More in this report.
The Israel-Gaza conflict shows no signs of abating as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu insists that his government will agree to a long-term ceasefire only if it includes the permanent closure of the Gaza-Egypt border to Hamas, ensuring it cannot use the area as a supply route.
But we also agreed to begin discussions about a permanent ceasefire. And the conditions that we shall have for a permanent ceasefire must include a situation where the Philadelphia corridor cannot be perforated. Somebody has to be there.
In response, Hamas has condemned Netanyahu for allegedly sabotaging potential peace talks by refusing to vacate the Philadelphia corridor in southern Gaza. Amid the ongoing hostilities, the Israeli military has released footage showing a tunnel where the remains of 6 hostages were found. The discovery has led to widespread mourning and protest, with thousands demanding an immediate resolution for the hostages.
Just to keep its ability to maintain the government, and this is completely wrong because every Israeli citizen was raised to believe that human lives are more important than everything else. And now we are explained that the Israeli government itself is more important than Israeli lives, and that is completely wrong.
Despite the conflict, a polio vaccination drive has begun in Khan Yunis. On Thursday, large crowds gathered at medical centers in southern Gaza to have their children vaccinated as part of the second phase of the campaign. Bureau Report, DD India.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has signaled his willingness to engage in talks with Ukraine on the condition that these discussions be based on Istanbul Agreement from 2022. Speaking at Eastern Economic Forum in Vladivostok, Russia, Putin said that India could have a key role to play in the peace negotiations to end the conflict.
Russian President Vladimir Putin is ready for talks with Ukraine after having previously rebuffed the idea of negotiations. This comes after Kyiv's offensive into Russia's Kursk region in August 2024. Speaking at Russia's Eastern Economic Forum in Vladivostok, President Putin said that China, India and Brazil could act as mediators in potential peace talks over Ukraine.
We respect our friends, partners, who I believe are sincerely interested in resolving all issues related to this conflict. This is primarily the People's Republic of China, Brazil, India. I'm constantly in contact with our colleagues on this issue. And I have no doubt that the leaders of these countries, we have a trusting relationship with them, sincerely strive to help understand all the details of this complex process.
A preliminary agreement reached between Russian and Ukrainian negotiators in the first weeks of the war at talks in Istanbul, which was never implemented, could serve as the basis for talks. Further, Putin also said that Ukraine had weakened itself by transferring large units in Russia.
By moving those rather large and not badly prepared grouping to the border area, the enemy has weakened themselves in the key accesses, and our forces have sped up the assault operations.
On Wednesday, UN Nuclear Agency Chief Rafael Grossi visited Zaporizhia nuclear plant in southeast Ukraine and inspected the cooling towers that caught fire last month.
Of course, the situation is not easy, so not everything is perfect, but we are really, in my opinion, we are stabilizing the situation. We are looking into some technical issues. We are going to be doing that today. So there is a work which is important.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian forces shot down 60 out of 78 drones launched by Russia in an overnight offensive on Thursday. Ukraine claims that Russia used one ballistic Iskander-M missile, while Russian Ministry of Defense said that Russian forces had taken control of a settlement in the Donetsk region. Aman Kumar Himanshu's report for DD India.
German police shot a man in an exchange of fire near the Israeli consulate and a Nazi documentation center in Munich on Thursday. The Israeli Foreign Ministry said the consulate was closed on Thursday for a commemoration of the Munich Olympics massacre. No one from the consulate staff was injured in the incident. Police spokesperson of southern Germany said the gunman has been identified as an 18-year-old Austrian national. The investigation is still underway.
What we can actually confirm is that the suspect has now been identified, and it is actually an 18-year-old with Australian citizenship who, as far as I know, is resident in Austria. I would like to ask for your understanding regarding the motive, as the investigation is still ongoing, and we will report back in due course in consultation with the Public Prosecutor General's office.
The World Bank has approved a $68 million program to prevent Pacific Island nations from being cut off from the international financial system that underpins tourism, trade and aid flows. The announcement was made by World Bank President Ajay Banga on Thursday during his visit to Fiji, the first by a World Bank leader in some 50 years. Banga assured Pacific Island leaders of the bank's support amidst concerns over losing access to major currencies due to Western banks withdrawing from the region. He also visited a medical center and attended a welcome ceremony with Fiji's Prime Minister Setwani Rabuka. Britain's HS2 high-speed rail project linking London with Birmingham in central England on Thursday completed the construction of what will be UK's longest bridge, stretching for more than 2 miles. The Colon Valley Viaduct runs across a series of lakes and waterways between Hillingdon and M25. The operation involved the lowering of 1,000 deck segments into place, completing more than 2 years of construction. The project is designed to help modernize the rail network, slash travel time, and help Britain catch up with other European nations that operate well-connected high-speed rail networks. Britain only has a small section connecting London with rail tunnel to mainland Europe. Over the years, it has been pitched as a way to reduce regional economic disparities. The first trains are expected to start between 2029 to 2033. NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg said on Thursday he does not see any immediate military threat against countries of the military alliance, but said that there was constant threat of terrorism, cyber attacks and sabotage. After 10 years in office, Stoltenberg's term ends on October 1st, when he will be handing over to former Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte. India's President Draupadi Murmu awarded more than 80 teachers for their extraordinary contribution in the field of education on the occasion of National Teachers' Day in India. 50 teachers from primary and secondary schools across the country were awarded by President Murmu in the national capital. President also awarded 82 teachers from different universities and colleges across India for their contribution towards innovation and nation building. Teachers' Day is celebrated in India on 5th of September every year to mark the birth anniversary of the former President Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan.
राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति 2020 में कौशल विकास पर विशेष जोर दिया गया है। इस नीति में प्रत्येक विद्यार्थियों के लिए वोकेशनल एक्सपीरियंस प्राप्त करने पर बल दिया गया है। इस अनुरूप में बच्चों का सर्वांगीण विकास होता है। समग्र विकास में स्किल डेवलपमेंट और एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप का भी उतना ही महत्व है जितना एकेडमिक लर्निंग का है। हमारी संस्कृति में विश्वकर्मा को देवता का दर्जा दिया गया है। आज कौशल विकास से जुड़े शिक्षकों को भी सम्मानित किया गया है।
Union Agriculture Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan on Thursday conducted an aerial survey of flood-affected areas in Vijayawada in Andhra Pradesh. Later, Chauhan talked to the affected people and farmers. He held a meeting with officials in Vijayawada to assess the damage caused in the flood-affected areas. He said that central government is closely monitoring the situation and assured that in this hour of crisis, the centre stands with the people of the flood-affected areas of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana and will be able to provide all possible help to them in overcoming the crisis.
एनडीआरएफ की टीमें यहां काम कर रही है लगातार। एयरफोर्स के, नौसेना के हेलीकॉप्टर्स जितने मांगे गए, केंद्र सरकार ने, प्रधानमंत्री जी ने, होम मिनिस्टर साहब ने उनको भेजने का काम किया और दिन और रात राज्य सरकार के साथ मिलकर संकट की स्थिति से जनता को निकालने का प्रयास किया। और इसलिए इतने भयानक जल प्रलय के बाद भी ह्यूमन लॉस, मानव जीवन का नुकसान बहुत न्यूनतम हुआ है। अगर सरकार इतनी दक्षता से काम नहीं करती तो ये स्थिति बहुत भयावह हो जाती।
In a historic move to strengthen Indian education in the UAE, Central Board of Secondary Education (CBSE) has launched its first regional office and centre of excellence outside of India, situated in Dubai. The milestone was marked with a special orientation session on Teachers' Day between CBSE officials, representatives from the Indian mission in Dubai, and principals from 78 schools across Dubai and the Northern Emirates. The session provided a platform to discuss new office's goals, scope, and its expected impact on the region. In his address, the Consul General of India in Dubai, Satish Kumar Sivan, emphasized on the importance of this new development.
Today is also special, for we are having the first formal interaction between the team of CBSE, RO and COE in Dubai, which started functioning just 2 months ago, as Mr. Ramshankar was mentioning. We thought it fit to have the interaction with you all today at the start of the academic year, and what better way to do it as a tribute on Teachers' Day. I must say that the team at CBSE Regional Office in Dubai has the best of the best assigned from CBSE.
Out of this 50 hours CPD guidelines, it is essential that 25 hours CPD you have to attend through the Center of Excellence of the CBSE, and the rest 25 choice is with you. Choice is with the individual as per your requirement, as per your needs.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. We talk about the outcome of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Singapore and the agreement signed. India's President Draupadi Murmu conferred National Teachers Award to selected awardees.
How it stands at the forefront of this energy transition, offering a clean, versatile solution to decarbonize sectors that have long relied on fossil fuels.
Green hydrogen is actually produced when you use renewable energy to power the electrolyzer, which splits water into hydrogen and oxygen.
Green hydrogen has a very, very critical role to play because it allows us to start getting into solutions that work for a lot of the other energy consuming sectors.
India has some of the brightest people in the world, and the visibility that the government has given in terms of national mission and side programs. So I think others will find the same reasons to invest and grow deeper in building their products.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. We return to our top story on Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Singapore. And joining me in the studio is Professor Sachin Chaturvedi, DG RIS for Developing Countries, an eminent economist. Good evening and welcome, Professor Chaturvedi. Now, we saw on display the vibrant and the close relationship between India and Singapore. If we look at in its entirety, Prime Minister Modi's visit to the country, how do you see it giving a new momentum and direction to the relations?
Definitely, Shubhendu, if we see all the 4 broad dimensions that they have covered through the MOU, as you have mentioned, I think the best effort that since 2016 Prime Minister Modi has been making is in terms of emphasizing the point that for successful Act East policy, we need to have leverage from Singapore, the partnership that is needed for multiple purposes. It is about skills, it is about finance, it is about nature of industrial policy that we follow, and also connect with the ASEAN countries. And this was quite evident in this visit of the Prime Minister.
And absolutely, and if you look at the specifics of the agreements, semiconductors are in focus. They said to be a new pillar of bilateral relations. What do you see the potential of these 2 countries coming together in this domain, India and Singapore?
I think it's a great area for cooperation. If you look at Singapore chose the idea of skilling and reskilling in this sector for India. The effort that we are making in next 10 years to have semiconductor and the chips coming out from us is in terms of the partnerships with countries like Singapore. Taiwan certainly is one, but the competing strength that Singapore provides is no less important. It is equally important. And from that perspective, the whole range of sectors that we are coming up with, our support for quantum mission, our support for semiconductor industries to come in, the chips and chip makers. Singapore is producing 10 units in a larger frame every 5 years, and that dimension has added huge bandwidth to their industrial and economic strength that Singapore is trying to
And as you mentioned that India is also creating its infrastructure for an ecosystem of semiconductor development, and this partnership with Singapore is going to be a force multiplier in this domain.
Exactly, and our effort to have Atmanirbhar Bharat is very much appreciated by other countries in terms of bringing the value chains other than China for them, and that value chain options are being appreciated by countries like Singapore, but many other countries are very appreciative of that effort. So our endeavor to build an ecosystem within the country, both through the quantum mechanics, but also in terms of physical infrastructure that is needed, I think would be something that would be very useful.
Right, and we also see an important convergence in the domain of sustainability from green hydrogen to International Solar Alliance. We see the leaders on the same page and platform.
Yes, exactly. You look at the effort Singapore is trying to make in terms of their net zero. So they are trying to also go for renewable energy. Singapore also has good sunshine, as many of us have. So they are very much part of the global south that way. And this probably, I think, gives the scope for cooperation. Of course, the technological edge that Singapore has, our ability to bring in solar panels, our ability to produce solar cells, Singapore would be a very good partner in terms of technological cooperation that is needed. And by the way, there was also again discussion in this sector on skills as well.
Yes.
So a wider approach on our cooperation with Singapore on skills, on industrial policy, I think is very appropriate and very timely.
And that makes the whole engagement more holistic, doesn't it? Human resource development, an important aspect of people-to-people connect, where education and skilling comes into the picture.
Absolutely, and this is not without creating jobs. The idea is to prepare our youth not only with skills but also jobs. And this is why if you see the whole effort that was made through digital solutions, our idea of RBI and Monetary Authority of Singapore signing agreements for future transactions, settlement of bills through no paper trade, I think is an excellent move to help our small and medium enterprises. The cost of transaction would be reduced. On the other side, you are seeing the digital solutions for which the digital MOU specifically talks about. You also see similar effort in the health sector.
Right.
If you see the biomedical health sector now, it has assumed importance in Singapore economy. It is giving 6% of their manufacturing growth rate. Singapore is such a small area, producing 6% of their manufacturing coming from biomedical instruments is something that we are import dependent. So that partnership would bring in a huge change in our approach to diagnostics, our ability to have industrial parks to produce medical equipments, and Andhra Pradesh and a couple of other states are taking lead in this regard.
Right, and sir, in the domain of advanced technologies, we see also conversations in the area of data security, AI, cyber security, hugely relevant in the current times.
Exactly, because if we are going for issues which are there in terms of cyber security, in terms of semiconductor, the chip production, by the way, they are producing almost 10% of the global requirement. So from that point of view, endeavors to cooperate for cyber security, the idea in terms of how physical infrastructure is coming up, and don't forget, Sibindu, our emphasis on digital public infrastructure, DPI, our emphasis on smart cities.
Yes.
These are other areas which are also facing challenges of cyber attacks. So from that point of view, our cooperation with Singapore would insulate the system, would give further strength for our cooperation with them.
And the issue of security beyond the cyberspace, if we talk about the regional security structure, infrastructure, the significance of India-Singapore partnership in that domain, the Indo-Pacific that we talk about.
And that, I think, Svendu, if you see in Brunei and also here, Prime Minister has given ample sort of messages, and these messages are no way different from what he gave earlier at Shangri-La Dialogue back in 16 and then later 18. So those years were absolutely in sync with the kind of architecture that has emerged, and this is where peace-loving countries are able to cooperate for collective security in the Indo-Pacific, so that intrusions are avoided, the discipline that is required in oceans is maintained, and respect for sovereignty. So that kind of articulation has come out very clearly, and the message is very emphatically communicated.
Right. Taking the theme of security forward and also India's concerns in the region as a whole, how do you also see Singapore as sort of a bridge for India for the rest of the Southeast Asian nations, with the kind of rapport that it shares with Singapore?
That is, I think, extremely important, and because Singapore is an important voice in the ASEAN setting.
Yes.
So ASEAN is the subset, and we have that sort of warmth, not only with Singapore but also with Indonesia, and this time Prime Minister's visit has opened up the doors for Brunei. So I think a larger connect with ASEAN is extremely important. And don't forget, that is important in terms of the success of the Act East policy. So the amount of violence that we are seeing in Bangladesh and in our other neighboring countries, it is important for us to see how ASEAN countries are able to ensure economic development, collective way forward. So our architecture on security, our approach on security is very much in sync with the larger ideas that Singapore and other ASEAN countries have.
Right. On that note, Professor Sachin Chaturvedi, thank you very much for joining us on the News Hour, sharing your perspective. Thank you. Moving on, India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman spoke at the 114th Annual General Meeting of the Southern India Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Chennai. She talked about how important it is for India to have a stable government based on past issues caused by unstable administrations. She warned that unstable governments can lead to economic problems and force the country to give up valuable assets. Finance Minister also mentioned plans to develop economic corridors, including expanding defence corridors in Tamil Nadu, Palakkad in Kerala and Tumakuru in Karnataka. Shaktikant Das, Governor, RBI, today said that Indian economy is now at a critical juncture with massive changes taking shape in various economic sectors and markets, and the country is geared for orbital shifts. He was addressing the flagship event of FICCI and IBA 2024 in Mumbai.
Reserve Bank of India Governor Shaktikanta Das said on Thursday that India's growth story remains intact and the fundamental growth drivers of the economy are gaining momentum.
For the current financial year, the Reserve Bank has projected a growth rate of 7.2%. The IMF has also projected India's growth prospect. They have in fact revised their growth projection for India upwards and have now placed it at 7%. And 2 days ago, the World Bank has also upgraded India's growth forecast to 7% for the financial year 24-25.
During his inaugural address at FIBAC 2024 event organized by FICCI, he said that the two main drivers of growth, consumption and investment demand, are growing in tandem. Das also said financial literacy needs to be enhanced and the technology needs to be leveraged. The new trinity of JAM, UPI and ULI will change the landscape.
The fundamental growth drivers of the Indian economy are actually gaining momentum. They are not slowing, they are gaining momentum. This gives us the confidence to say, that Indian growth story remains intact.
Das emphasized that India's financial sector has repeatedly demonstrated its ability to overcome challenges and crises. He added that the financial sector needs to even further deepen financial inclusion, broaden access to credit and other financial products, and support overall inclusive growth.
All the banking community, both private and public sector, need to have adequate capital adequacy. I think that is the key. We need to build systems and build innovations within ourselves to ensure that we have adequate capital to meet the credit demands of future generations.
World Bank has also upgraded India's growth forecast to 7% for 2024-25.
The High Commissioner of India to Bangladesh, Pranay Verma, met the Railways, Power, Energy and Mineral Resources and Road Transport and Bridges Advisor of the Interim Government of Bangladesh, Mohammad Fazul Kabir Khan, on Thursday. They discussed ongoing projects and exchanged views on sub-regional power connectivity and emphasized safety and security of Indian project personnel and the Indian High Commission through social media post on platform X on Thursday. Let's now turn to other stories making news today. The two-day International AI Global Summit kicked off at the Hyderabad International Convention Centre, marking the first major AI conference in India organized by Telangana state government. The summit aims to democratize artificial intelligence. Chief Minister Revant Reddy and IT Minister Sridhar Babu inaugurated the event, which has drawn global attention. Domestic passenger traffic is set to witness 7 to 10% growth year-on-year in financial year 25 as the Indian aviation industry is likely to navigate towards clearer skies. A report showed on Thursday. Rating agency ICRA forecasts the domestic passenger traffic to reach 164 to 170 million in financial year 25. India's Union Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal on Thursday emphasized that genuine, rational, single window is key for ease of doing business in the country. Addressing a conference of industries and commerce ministers of states in Delhi, the minister said if all states and union territories come to one platform for approvals and facilities, it would attract global investment in each state. Amazon Global Selling is empowering Indian exporters to reach customers globally. Technology is the driving force that is simplifying e-commerce exports for Indian MSMEs. The Indian government is investing significantly in tools and technologies to help sellers optimize their reach, enhance product discovery and increase sales. Amazon's global selling program has enabled some 1.5 lakh Indian exporters to sell over 400 million made-in-India products to customers. Maharashtra, Delhi, Gujarat, Rajasthan and Karnataka emerge as states with maximum number of exporters on Amazon Global.
Create the tools and technologies and the policies, then our entrepreneur base is one of the most sophisticated in the world and they embrace things very, very quickly. The government has also started to do its part in a big way. The e-commerce exports chapter came in the foreign trade policy for the first time last year. E-commerce exports hub is a large part of the conversation. It got even airtime in the budget speech of the finance minister. So certainly all the aspects that are ingredients for a business's success are coming together, and that's what is driving some of the trends that we are seeing in the seller system. The technology is evolving quite rapidly. The policies are also sort of keeping pace with what the new age technologies are here to offer. And our entrepreneur base remains very, very entrepreneurial and adopting these.
You're watching DD India News Hour. Time for all the action from the world of sports. India's progress at the 2024 Paris Paralympics has been nothing short of historic, with the country achieving its best ever performance so far. India has secured 25 medals as of now, 5 golds, 9 silver and 11 bronze, outperforming its previous record set during the Tokyo 2020 Paralympics. Here's more.
Indian para-athletes are on a roll in the ongoing Paris Paralympics, with the country achieving its best ever performance so far, surpassing their previous best medal tally of 19 medals they won at Tokyo. The success is largely due to government support, increased funding and better facilities for athletes. 22-year-old Avni Lekra continued her remarkable run in parachuting by winning gold in the 10-meter air rifle standing SH1 category, solidifying her status as one of India's top Paralympic athletes. while 26-year-old Sumit Antil delivered an outstanding performance, breaking all previous Paralympic records in the F64 javelin throw event, retaining his Tokyo title and securing another gold for India. 35-year-old Dharambir set an Asian record in the seated F51 club throw event, clinching gold with a throw of 34.92 meters. Shuttler Nitesh Kumar won gold in SL3 men's singles para badminton, continuing India's dominance in this sport since it debuted in the Tokyo 2020 Paralympics. Shuttler Suhas Yatiraj, who is also an IS officer, returned with another silver from Paris. Although 84 participating para-athletes in Paris were supported by government schemes, were given foreign exposure, mainly in form of international competitions and guided by international experts. Rio 2016 and Tokyo 2020 were the games that put India more firmly on the Paralympic map. 19 athletes from 5 sports travelled to Brazil in 2016, almost double the contingent that competed in London, resulting in 4 para-athletics medals. At Tokyo 2020, India sent 54 athletes in 9 sports, a huge record in terms of participation, and they delivered unprecedented success, winning 19 medals. At the Hangzhou 2022 Asian Games, 303 athletes participated across 17 sports and brought home a record 111 medals, the most India has ever won at an international multi-sport event. These achievements and growth of Indian para-athletes shows India's rise in para-sports. Sports Desk, DD India.
And to talk about the historic performance of Indian athletes, happy to welcome Deepa Malik, Padma Shri and Arjuna awardee athlete. Good evening and welcome, ma'am. Indian para-athletes are setting new records in the Paris Paralympics. How do you see their exceptional performance and what is driving this stupendous show?
It has extremely been a very, very happy and joyous journey to see para sports grow so fast and so beautifully in last 8 years, since 2016 onwards. You know, I've just arrived in India and I sat in the plane, and by the time I landed, I had learned that there were 8 more medals. So at that speed, the medals are being won. And I returned early morning and was so happy that we have finally hit the 25 mark. You asked me what has made the difference. I think it is the awareness for the sports, complemented by the policies around the sports and the incentives that para-sports people have started receiving now in terms of at par respect, at par cash awards, at par job opportunities, at par funding programs, at par infrastructure provided, and above the at par, very customized training with proper focus on the right kind of prosthetics, wheelchair, international equipment, and even training. Today's para-athlete, not unlike the earlier times. Even when I joined para sports, I had no clue that there is something called diet, nutrition, mental well-being, or there is something called injury management or sports massages, sauna. We just knew that, okay, pick up a javelin, go there, practice, come back. No idea how to manage, what is physiotherapy that has to be done with it. It's only after the Target Olympic Podium scheme that was introduced and we became information technology savvy, where we could follow the journeys of other athletes internationally and started education programs, not only for the athletes, but also for the ecosystem which surrounds the athletes. I think that has made a huge difference. Right. Above all, because I have been a proud administrator during Tokyo preparations, during the Hangzhou Asian Para Games, and now Paris, till June I was in the administrative role till Devendra Jajaria took over the reins. What I have seen that now even the federation has become athlete-centric and has started taking their job seriously. It is no longer just an NGO which used to be, okay, you know, people thought it is charity sports for Divyang hai, charity hai, chalo recreation ho jayega, thoda sa Divyang logon ka man behel jayega. There is no man behel jayega and all. There is no scope of sympathy. These are high class, highly competitive, very professional sports.
Right, and the results speak for themselves.
Yes, and they require very meticulous training, planning, international standard equipments, and I think finally at least the elite athletes I have started getting these opportunities with Prime Minister personally, joining the journey of para sports athletes, complimenting them, calling them, keeping no difference between Olympics and Paralympics. This time I have to thank and compliment DD Sports. They have always been very, very forthcoming in telecasting these sports. So the awareness has made a huge contribution now, and more athletes in the pipeline are coming and starting playing. Imagine blind judo. I mean, this is just the first, it's just a 2-3 year old sport in India. Archery, till Tokyo, we only had 20-25 archers. Imagine now so many archers, shooters. I have to give credit to the shooting ecosystem of parasports, Mr. Nautiyal, Subhash Rana, Vivek Saini. Only 17 shooters used to be there, and today when we do the nationals, about 800 shooters come and play in the nationals.
Right, let's
the growth
hope.
Is tremendous.
Absolutely, let's hope there are more medals on the way, ma'am. Thank you very much for joining us on the News Hour.
Thank you.
And sharing your thoughts.
Thank you.
A total of 30 international soccer stars have been nominated for the prestigious and upcoming Ballon ceremony, which will be taking place in the month of October this year in Paris. Interestingly, for the first time since 2003, there is no Messi or Ronaldo who have been nominated for the award. The Tirubhav Tithi of the great Assamese saint Mahapurush Srimantra Shankaradeva, pioneer of Neo-Vaishnavite movement in Assam, was observed across all Namgars and Satras in the state recently. His literary and artistic contributions are living traditions in Assam even today, including the famous classical Satriya dance form. Our correspondent Subina Roy gives us a special report from Dibrugarh.
Special day for Assam as the people here are observing the Tirubhav Tithi of the great Assamese saint Mahapurush Srimanta Shankardev. You would be wondering about who is this great man. Well, he is Srimanta Shankardev, a 15th century Assamese polymath, a saint scholar, social religious reformer who played a crucial role in shaping the cultural and religious history of the Bhakti movement in Assam.
The contribution of Shankardeva is a vast one, so that just a very depict picture. What is the big picture actually left by the Shankardeva, our guru, and also we are known as a Jagat Guru and a new Vaishnavite Guru.
His teachings influenced two medieval kingdoms, Koch and the Ahom kingdom, and the assembly of devotees he initiated evolved over time into monastic centers called hotros, which continued to be important socio-religious institutions in Assam.
Mahapurush Shankardev was a 14th century poet cum scholar, but his traditions continue till date in Assam. And his contributions are such that he has given Brajavali language to the famous classical dance, Kshatriya dance, to Borgeet and various musical instruments, and also including the mask-making culture of Assam.
That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan this QR code on your screens to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.
How it stands